was going to do it all. I was like, I know iPads and, and I'm, Apple nerd and all this kind of stuff. So, but I thought, I reached out to Rick and thought, hey, what better way to really, bring the best to you guys than to go to the best. And this guy, Rick, had worked at the Apple Store 5 years. He was at the flagship Apple Store in Chicago before he moved down to Birmingham. And so he is really, truly an expert when it comes to Apple products and the iPad. So I want to welcome him. He knows some of you. He does workshops throughout the state and in Birmingham to small groups and large groups alike. So there's opportunities too, even outside of this. If you want to get with Rick and you've got a small group of agents that want to do some real hands-on training, he can do that as well. But I'll hand it over to Rick and let him start. And if you have any questions, again, this isn't one of those, we're getting, CDs and there's don't touch your iPad and don't get up. There's a lot of freedom in our discussion today. So Rick, it's all yours.
Does anyone in here know if they have the first generation iPad? That's the one that has like a thick border on it. It doesn't have a camera on it. Okay. Does anyone in here have like an iPad mini, like one of the smaller ones? Okay, great. We've got some minis. Does anyone have the new iPad Air? The one that just came out? Okay, great. Great. Raise your hand if you know if you're running iOS 7 on your device. 7.1. Excellent. Me too. Does anyone not know if they're running iOS 7? I love you all. We'll talk about upgrading and the benefits of upgrading and the downside to upgrading as well. We'll talk. The truth is that if they were to print off a manual and include that, it'd be as big as an encyclopedia. And there's just so much that we could cover. However, you can go to the iBook store and download the manual for free. So if even the questions that I just asked were very overwhelming and maybe made you feel a little guilty about yourself, this is a good place about the upgrades and stuff. Another thing before we actually get started, I hope it's okay, I've got a lot of intro material, but this website, it's also listed on your handout. It's macinstructor.co/newsletter. This is a free newsletter that our team puts out once a month. But just for the sake of today's workshop, we're going to go with a non-nerd term. It's the first time I've said non-nerd before a group before. So here's what we're going to be doing today. If you want. The first section of this, and there's 3 sections, is something I called iPad Foundations. We're just going to talk about some very, very basic principles that you should have as you approach this thin piece of glass. And we're going to talk about a lot of cloud services because, no doubt you've heard that term, the cloud, and I don't know if anyone, including myself, can give you a very clear definition of that, and the reason is because it means 100 different things. So we're going to talk about the cloud. And then if we still have time, which I'm hoping we will, we're going to talk about the actual meat and potatoes of it all, actually getting work done, getting things done on your iPad. You can back up your iPad. You've got 2 different options. The first option is the old school way. You can plug in your iPad to your computer and back it up to iTunes. So that's the first way. That's really easy. You literally just plug in your iPad to the computer. iTunes automatically pops up, automatically, and it'll automatically back up your device to it. If for whatever reason it doesn't automatically back up, when you have iTunes open on your computer, there's a window on there, or there's a button on there that just flat out says backup. So you would click on that, and it would back up your device. If it's plugged in charging and connected to a Wi-Fi network, it will attempt to back up to iCloud. And it backs up everything. It backs up your apps, your text messages, any pictures or videos that you've taken. It backs up documents that you've created in apps. It backs up all of your settings. It backs $20 for 15 gigs. I forget what the rest of it is. And you'll see I did that. I'm up to 15 gigs.
And that's $20 a year, right?
Yeah, it's an annual.
So it's not a monthly
charge.
It says that total storage 5 gigs and available 4.4.
that means that you have more than 4.4 gigs of material that need to be backed up. So remember when I went through my list of all the things that your iPad backs up, and one of the things I said was pictures that you've taken and videos? So my guess is if we were to go to your Photos app, we would see a ton of photos and videos on there. So the second way to fix this problem is to plug in your device to your computer and offload all your pictures onto that computer. Which most people are doing most of their computing on a mobile device, be that a smartphone or a tablet. They're doing most of their computing on a mobile device. Now, does that mean that we don't need computers anymore? Obviously not. I would go insane if I had to do 100% of my work on my iPad. You know, most people want just a good car, you know, like a Honda Accord or whatever. They know they can get around town in, that's fine, it serves all the purpose. But it's always good to have a buddy in your life who has a big old pickup truck. You know, so when you have to move or you buy a new dresser or whatever, you call Frank with the pickup truck, and you know, poor Frank, you and him go out and get the thing. So it's kind of like an 80-20 rule, in my opinion. You know, 80% of your computing is done on this, but there's that still 20% where you want to be able to sit down at a computer for your spreadsheets, or you're having to fill out a ton of forms online. You know, you want to be able to use a mouse and a keyboard for that, and that's okay. I think some of the mindset you'll get from tech people like me is rah-rah iPad, you know, it should be able to do everything, and I want to dispel that myth. Again, like I've talked about iCloud, which we've kind of already hit on, and Dropbox. And again, these are hallmarks of the post-PC era. So I'm assuming most people in here have heard of iCloud. Raise your hand if you have a Dropbox and iCloud. There is no iCloud folder on your computer. You know, you can't just lob files into iCloud and then access it on something else. Unless you're a turbo geek, then you can probably figure something out. But Dropbox is a folder that syncs. iCloud is really more for Apple's stuff. So photo stream, storage and backup, contacts, calendars, things like that. Things that you wouldn't necessarily associate with files and folders. With subfolders within there, for me, I store everything I've ever written in Dropbox. So everything from high school on up through grad school, everything is in there. So that I can literally go to my iPad or my iPhone and pull up anything. Now, what's also cool is you can set specific folders, or you can share specific folders with specific people. So if you and I were working on a project together, I could put like my PDF file in there, and then I'd work on it for a little bit, close it up, and then you would open it up on your device, and you could see all those changes that I just made. So it's collaborative.
Don't you have a share mechanism that you have to deal with?
You have to email them like a shared link or like an invitation to join that folder, but the other person just needs to have Dropbox installed.
That's sending.
So
Yes.
it's automatic. If you get a shared link to it and you open it up, that folder that's with a shared link, then it plugs in with your Dropbox, and so then y'all both are in the back and forth.
Yes, in the back.
If it's a PDF, though, when you send it to another folder, someone else in another folder, can they amend it?
Yes. Get stuff into your device.
We'll stay as long as you want.
Okay. So someone has asked, can you show me how to do this PDF signing thing that we've talked about? Also, I got the question about how do you work with Microsoft Office documents on your iPad. So we're going to talk about that, okay? Now, we were spinning a lot of plates at this point. We've talked about how the iPad is a mobile device and how it's different than a PC. We've talked about cloud services, about iCloud and Dropbox, and how those are different from each other, how they complement one another. And really, those are the foundation of everything. If you're very confused at this point, I would recommend tuning out the rest of everything I say, because that'll just confuse you even more.
Stay with Dropbox.
For the sake of argument, everyone now has gone home and set up Dropbox on all their devices, gone to work the next day, set up Dropbox there, and loaded in some documents. You've got a couple PDFs in there, Word documents, things like that. So your Dropbox now is very full and robust. So the Dropbox app on the iPad is really just a teaser. It's good for looking at files and sharing files and deleting files, but that's about it. Viewing them and sharing them, that's it. You can't actually edit files with the official Dropbox app. Instead, what Dropbox has done is they rely on third-party developers to build other apps that do this. So say, for example, you want to edit Microsoft Office documents on your iPad that live in Dropbox. You're going to want an app called Docs to Go. Now, all of this is written down on that handout, so you can just even put a star next to it if you want. Oh, the other thing, going back to the handout, I believe there's a link on, it's on the first page that has the Mac Instructor logo on it. Or I'm sorry, I guess that's technically the second page. My website, it also has just a straight, like a huge list of all the apps that we talk about in our workshops. But yeah, I think I mentioned specifically on that piece of paper, Docs to Go. So if you work with Microsoft Office documents that live in Dropbox, you want Docs to Go. If you work with PDFs, there's an excellent app out there that I really like called PDF Expert. This is the one that's used for editing, signing, highlighting, just marking up PDFs.
So the same thing as PDF?
Yeah, that's a competitor. Yeah, and PDF Pen is great. That's really good.
Do you need both?
There's a handful of them. Yeah, and there's pros and cons to both of them.
What was that one she said?
Do you
Same
need
as
both of
PDF?
them?
You don't need both, no. They both do the same thing. There's PDF Pen
Oh,
and PDF Expert. In my opinion, PDF Expert looks a little better.
I love
And-
it, PDF.
Yeah, it's just a little easier for me to use. If you work in plain text files, that's not Word documents. These are .txt files. There's a great app there called Byword, and this will edit text files that live in Dropbox. If you work a lot with photos and you don't want to use iCloud for your photos, you want to use Dropbox to house your photos, there's a great app out there called Unbound that allows you to create these really cool galleries, and then you can share them out with people very easily. And then if you're really into this, this last one is actually an iPhone-only app. It's called Boxy. Boxy is like a Dropbox File Manager Pro for the iPhone. So it lets you like rename files and move files from folder to folder. It has some additional sharing options. So if you really love this Dropbox stuff, Boxy is a good place to go.